So, as Trump promised, he released an unredacted version of this phone call with the Ukrainian president. So here is the way this shook out. Trump said, "I'm going to release this tomorrow, an unredacted phone call, a transcript of my phone call with the Ukrainian president." Then Nancy Pelosi went before Congress and did this thing about impeachment that had no meaning whatsoever, but we'll get back to it. It made big news. It was very dramatic. The television news loved it, and they covered it as if it were an event. It was not an event, but we'll talk about that too. So that first, Trump promised he'd do it. Then they made this impeachment show, and then today they released this. Now, I have to say, if you listen to what he says in this, I know that the Democrats, Adam Schiff is saying, "Oh my, it's evil. Oh my, look at the evil." I read this transcript this morning, right? Here's what he says to the Ukrainian president. "I would like you to do us a favor, though," because he's congratulating the president on his election. And they're having a very pleasant, friendly chat. It's two politician guys talking, right? He says, "I would like you to do us a favor because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it." Remember, Ukraine is part of the reason, part of the Russian meddling with our elections. "I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people. The server, they say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation. I think you're surrounding yourself with some of the same people. I would like to have the Attorney General call you or your people, and I would like you to get to the bottom of it. As you saw yesterday, that whole nonsense ended with a very poor performance by a man named Robert Mueller, an incompetent performance. But they say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you can do, it's very important that you do it if that's possible." So in other words, this CrowdStrike was the organization. Remember, the Democrats never turned their servers over to Congress. They never turned them over to any law enforcement agency. They gave it to this agency, CrowdStrike, which has a Ukraine component, and they said, "Oh yeah, the Russians hacked the DNC emails." That's all we know. No one in power has ever seen this, only this CrowdStrike organization. So he's asking them to do this. He's actually asking them to look at what happened in the 2016 election, which is what the Democrats have been calling about all this time, right? And so then the president, Zelensky, brings up Rudy Giuliani and says they can't wait to meet him. And Trump says what a great guy he is. And Trump also says that he brings up Biden's son. He says that Zelensky says the investigations will be done openly and candidly. And then Trump says, good. And he says the prosecutor was shut down before he could look into corruption. And that's when he talks about Biden's son, Hunter, and Joe Biden, who obviously got this prosecutor replaced. And so there's still an open question whether the prosecutor he got replaced was looking into corruption or was not looking into corruption. Biden says he wasn't, and that's why he used leverage to get him replaced. And the Republicans are saying, no, he was investigating Hunter Biden, among other things, the gas company that Hunter Biden was working for at $50,000 a month with no expertise in energy matters whatsoever. And it seems pretty clear, he was doing that, he got this job because his father was vice president of the United States. And it does look bad, but I'm not yet ready to say that Biden was committing an act of corruption by getting this prosecutor thrown over. I can't really tell. It's very hard because both sides are saying different things about it. But one thing is clear, it hasn't been fully investigated. So Trump is saying this whole thing. And now, McCarthyite Adam Schiff is saying, oh, yes, this confirms our impeachment call. As far as I'm concerned, when I said they should have listened to me, when I told them that they were acting like Wile E. Coyote and this was going to blow up in their face, I think that was Monday I did that opening routine. To me, when fair-minded people, because those are the people who matter, right? The people who love Trump are going to love Trump. The people who hate Trump are going to see it's evil and all this stuff. We understand that. But it's the people who matter, the people who are fair-minded and are looking at this and saying, he's not offering them anything. He's not, offering a quid pro quo. It's a very, very friendly conversation. There's absolutely no, and do us a favor or else. It really is two people getting along and say, that's what it reads like to me. Obviously, as I said yesterday, I'm not a fair-minded observer. The Democrats seem to me to pose an actual threat to our freedom, to our founding values. They actually are open socialists, which I think is against our founding values. They don't like the First Amendment. They don't like the Second Amendment. They don't like the Constitution. They don't like the Electoral College. They think the Supreme Court should be stacked. To me, those are enemies of our founding principles, enemies of the way this country has worked and the way it has remained free. They say openly they don't think this country was ever great. They all say that as well. I am not in favor of the Democrats, right? And I am prone to say Trump is a guy, I've said this a million times, he's a big, big American character with big, big flaws, and I am willing to overlook those flaws if they are not threatening my freedom and the Constitution, because the Democrats are a threat to that Constitution. If that sounds unfair, if that sounds like I'm not calling balls and strikes, I'm not. I'm trying to defend my freedom. Trump means nothing to me. He means nothing to me. He'll be gone. He will die as all men die. But I do not want this country to die because I have children and a grandchild, and I want them to live free in this country. That's my interest. I'm laying it out there. You know what my bias is. Before you go, one last thing. Hit the subscribe button so that you stay up to date on all our content.